Alright, today we are going to be looking at generics in Java. Generics is very important because it's a question that you might encounter in your interview or in some quiz or test you might face. So we are going to specifically be looking at generic classes and generic methods. If you want to know more, you can actually visit my website and get a clearer explanation or detailed explanation of this. But today we are just going to do a demo. Alright. So the easiest way to understand generics is to take an example. So first we are going to start with generic methods. So I'm going to write three methods that do the same thing, and I'm going to use generic to write only one method that does the same things that the three methods will do. So keep in mind that generics is a way to prevent overloading. And what is overloading? Overloading means writing different functions or different methods to perform the same actions with different sets of arguments. So for instance, you can write print array. It takes an integer print array. It takes a string print array. It takes a character. So you write different methods taking different parameters, and you might end up writing many methods. So how can you write one single method or one single function to do the same thing instead of writing several of them? So let's take an example. I'm going to start a new class. So if you are following along, choose public static void main from here, and then I'm going to call it generic demo. Alright, okay, so use a standard name, generic demo. Alright, so I'm going to say finish. Alright, so this is where we are. So I'm going to start by writing a method that is going to perform a particular action. So let's say integer. Just create a bunch of arrays. 1, 2. Okay, so we create an integer array, and then let's create another array. It's complaining. Integer int array is equal to. Okay, so let's braces. All right. So let's get string is equal to, let's say, all right. So we've created two arrays, and then, what is it? Semicolon. All right. So I'm going to write two methods to print this array. So let's say public static void prints. It takes an integer array. It takes an integer. It takes an integer array as the argument. Okay, so I'm going to say for integer x in AR system.out dot print. So I'm specifying a format. So it's going to be an integer. Sorry, it's going to be a string. Right, so I'm going to print x. All right, so fine. So all right, so there is a simple method that prints this array. Okay, so if I run this program now, it's going to print out the integer array 1, 2, 4, 6. So let's try it out. So just say run as and choose Java application, and there we go. Okay, just give it a second. Terminated integer array x. Okay, so let's click and run. Okay, I get what is happening. Okay, so this is the function that prints it. So let me call this function from here. So print array. I'm just going to give it integer int array. All right. So this is what we want to achieve. So I've written a function print array, and I'm calling this function from the main method. So if I run it now, it's going to display 1, 2, 4, 6, right? So if I call this function with the second array, which is string array, is going to give an error because we've not defined this function for strings. So let's just define this function for string. So this time I'm going to call it print array, but this time it takes a string, right? So it takes a string, and now everybody is happy. It has string array defined, right? Good. So I'm going to call string array to print, and I'm going to pass it string array. So previously we have int array. So take some time to understand how this actually works. So this is basically two methods, right? Two methods, print array, taking integer array, and the second one takes a string array, and they work to print an integer and a string array. So if I run this program now, the first one runs. So the first one runs and prints out the integer 1246 integer array. The second one runs and print out Kani Java, and that is a string array. So we are now going to write a function that does the two things. Just one function called a generic function, and that is the power of generics, to write with single function to print the two types of array. And this is necessary because assuming we have let's say 20 functions, do we continue to write different functions for different kind of objects? That is a problem. So let's stop here, and then in the next tutorial we write a single generic function to do the same thing. I'd like to thank you for viewing, and remember to subscribe.